Welcome everybody to a new post in the TFRP group with Avi Tenenbaum. And this week we are going to start wrapping up Shovavim. We had a lot of posts about Shovavim recently, important ideas about temptation and sin and overcoming the Yetzer Hara. A lot of great stuff. And there's different parts of the year, different things to work on and grow. And that was the whole point of Shovavim, was to talk about those areas, grow in those areas, deconstruct the shame, see the beauty in the dark side of who we are and how that makes us great when we overcome temptation and all that stuff. So today we're going to talk about why we feel good after we make good choices and overcome temptation, and we're going to connect this to Adar, and this is going to be part of wrapping up all of these talks during Shovavim and the Yetzer Hara and temptation, and then we're going to have some exciting announcements in the weeks to come and move on into some new topics that had nothing to do almost with these topics. So I'm looking forward to that. So here we are in Adar, yay! Mishenichnas Adar marbim besimcha. The Chazal say when you go into Adar, you should be happy. How do you demonstrate that? Why should you be happy? How does that work? Whole discussion, not for today. But, says the Kedushas Nevi, on a very esoteric level. So I'm going to say what he said, but on not such an esoteric level. I'm going to just say it on a regular level. But he says on a molecular, spiritually deep, esoteric level, almost like the level of atoms, but in spirituality, in Kabbalistic language, he says that when you make good decisions, bits of holiness go into you and make you a holier person, and that brings you joy. That's basically what he says. And he says that this is why, when you go into Adar, you are more happy, because you just finished Shovavim, and we worked on all these different topics. We confronted some difficult issues. We looked at our past and the darker side of ourselves. We tried to fix some of those things and take some steps to be holier, greater people, to learn how to overcome the Yetzer Hara and make good decisions. We came to appreciate and understand why we have this dark side to ourselves and how it's constructive and it's not shameful and it's holy and all that stuff. So once you work through all of that and you start to make some great decisions, so you become a holier person and that makes you happy. And so when you go into Adar after Shovavim, Mishenichnas Adar marbim besimcha, you can't help but be happier. And I'm really happy. Okay? So that is how the Kedushas Levi explains why when we go into Adar, we're happier people. It's because it follows Shovavim, and we straightened out our sexual sin type of stuff, Yetzer Hara, temptation, issues, all that stuff. We've sorted it out. This makes us happier, greater people, holier people, and that brings us joy. And I had the privilege today of talking to a very big scholar and psychologist, and I said, I am thinking all today about this topic. Why is it that when you overcome the Yetzer Hara, it makes you to feel so good? How does that work? And we were having a really interesting discussion. And obviously, when I talk about when you overcome the Yetzer Hara, it feels good, I don't mean it instantly feels good, because that would be instant gratification. And if that would have been the case, so then it would feel as good to not give in to looking at some bad things on the internet as to give in. And that wouldn't make any sense, because that's nobody's experience. And what we're referring to is when we consistently don't give in to bad, and we try to become the higher spiritual version of ourselves, and we sacrifice instant gratification and the pleasure we get in this moment for the future, so then cumulatively in the future, it has this unmatchable, great feeling that most people maybe don't even get to experience in their whole life, but it's an incredible feeling. And how does that work? And I think that we all have certain ideals and morals, ethics, values that we believe in, maybe we're willing to die for, and it actually says in the Torah, you should love Hashem and everything about Hashem's will with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your money, right? And so there are some things that we deeply believe in. You look in the history of the world, people were willing to sacrifice their lives for some of these ideas. And this is not only true to Judaism. There are all sorts of ideals out there that people were willing to sacrifice their lives and their money and their time for. And so we deeply believe things as human beings. Hopefully we believe in the right things, and the Torah comes to show us what we should be believing in. And the Sefer Tanya says that the smarter you get in Torah learning and the more mature you get spiritually, you're going to want new things that are more complex and more spiritual. And so simpler people want simpler things, and more developed people spiritually want more developed, important things, more spiritual things, right? And so hopefully we're growing and wanting those important things. But part of that hopefully is we believe in morality, we believe in holiness, we believe in purity, we believe in loyalty, faithfulness, and whether it's faithfulness to God, faithfulness to ourselves, faithfulness to our marriage partner, our husband or wife, right? There are certain things that we believe in that helps us to not do more immoral things, not to do adultery, not to look at inappropriate things. We have a deep connection to people that we love, to things that we love, to ideals that we believe in passionately, to Hashem, right? To our spouses. And these are the things that we deeply believe in. So when I go and I look at bad things and dip into temptation, so that creates shame because I know that I don't even believe in these things, but I'm deciding to just dip in and enjoy the present moment now and say, forget the future. Let me just live for the moment. And that clashes with all those things that I believe in. But if I'm willing to sacrifice that over and over and over a bunch of times, and I'm willing to sacrifice the present moment and that little bit of pleasure, those few hours or moments of pleasure now, for a greater good that I believe in, that helps me feel good because I have what's called value-based living. I'm living according to what I believe. And that feels so good. And there's a freedom in that. People don't understand. Halacha, a lot of times, people say, hey, what are all these restrictions? What's all this? You know what that is? That's the framework for helping guide me to be loyal to the people that I love, to make good decisions, and to stay on track. Because as human beings, it's so easy to get off track. All you need to do is follow world news and see some of the insane things people decide every single day, the way that they harm other people and harm themselves and completely go off the rails and make loony decisions. And we're trying to stay on track and to become the greatest people that we can be and live in line with our beliefs and our morals and our values. This brings us joy. This makes us feel like great people, and it unlocks our potential. It makes us holy. So whether you talk about it on an esoteric, Kabbalistic, Hasidic level, you talk about it on a psychological level, however you want to spin it, it's the same thing. When we make good decisions, we feel good. And that's why people go to college. That's why people learn a trade. That's why people go to the military. People make all sorts of major decisions because they perceive that now I'm going to do hard work, but later on it's going to lead me to the greater good of mankind and to myself, to my family, and to other people. So it's worth it for me now to put in that work in order to get to that greater place later on. So when we're confronted with the Yetzer Hara and with temptation, we can put a smile on our face. And we can remember that of course we can dip in now. We have free will. Of course we can make some poor decisions now. But that's so short-lived. It's so shallow. It doesn't even bring you much pleasure. And then it just finishes. And then there's all those consequences and the lies you have to manage and the feeling of how you contradicted what you yourself believe. And that doesn't feel very good. So what does most of the world do in 2022? They just throw out all their beliefs and just cancel everything that existed for thousands of years. Let's deconstruct all the different ideas of morality and spirituality, and then we don't have to feel bad about anything. But the truth is, you can maintain all those beliefs and stand up to what you believe in, and you can remember, I'm going to sacrifice this pleasure now, although it's difficult, although it's hard, using all the tools and the TFRP things that we learned or in other places, I'm going to sacrifice this pleasure now for the greater good later on. And this is going to lead me to be the greatest version of myself and to experience spirituality and to become a wiser person, a greater person, a person with self-control, with more wisdom. And I'm going to make the world a better place, make myself a better place, and my future is going to be better. And this is what brings us joy. It brings us true simcha, but not shallow simcha that peters out. Not the simcha of drugs and alcohol that is short-lived and it just finishes in mere moments. But we're talking about real, genuine pleasure that stays with you your whole life and brings you a legacy. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you're new to this, you can join TFRP by sending an email to tfrpgroup@gmail.com. We're also a WhatsApp group, YouTube channel, and we have all these videos, or almost all of them at least, on an internet filter-friendly website. You can get all those links by sending an email to tfrpgroup@gmail.com, tfrpgroup@gmail.com. Everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos, the happiest Adar. We should be proud of our accomplishments, own them, be really besimcha, and be filled with real substance after we've made great choices. We should be so happy and proud of ourselves. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week.